Well, howdy, y'all. Rude Ronnie, David, the happiness lady. I even wrote a book about it. My shameless plug. Choosing happiness, an uncommon way to find joy in your life. Speaks a few languages. It's interesting because my last podcast, or not podcast, well, actually, my upcoming podcast has something to do with this, which is why I'm having this conversation. But my last live, because I do the Happy Hump Day. That's what we call it in the States. Wednesday's hump day because you get halfway through the week. At least if you have a work week that's Monday through Friday, usually a 9 to 5 kind of thing. For me, my whole life is every breath is my life and living is my work, but it doesn't feel like work to me. But what I was saying was last Wednesday, I wasn't so much happy, which is what I'm talking about here. Are you happy? Sometimes there is just crappy shit. I'm just going to say it that comes up and screws with your happy, right? Last Wednesday, I was talking about my sweet kitty cat Pepita because she'd been diagnosed. Well, they weren't quite sure, but they were pretty sure it was a mass and that it was covering 80% of her stomach. And then, or filled 80% of her stomach. It was pushing on her intestines and all of this. And yet I had just brought her in. She had a clean bill of health in December. Why didn't they see it? But I noticed that she was getting lethargic or whatever and slowing down. She wasn't eating as much. She had lost 4 pounds in a matter of 3 weeks. So whatever this was knocking her out. And if it was cancer, it was kicking her ass. And the thing is I was ready to say goodbye. Well, I wasn't last Wednesday. I'll be honest with you. I said I was, but it took just, being willing to just be with her and say, "Hey, little lady, excuse me, are you wanting to check out? Because if you is, I'm down. We've had a beautiful 17 and a half years together, all the stuff. Mm. If you're ready to go, I support that. I get it." And I ran body processes and all this. And we had a conversation. And she was like, "Well, you know what? I don't want you to euthanize me." In other words, she's not a talking cat, but we're very telepathic. She's like, I really would prefer you not bring me to the vet and have me put down. I would prefer to go on my own, and I'm happy to do that when the time comes. And of course, I talked to the vet and I said, "Listen, she seems to be better." And this is what happened, y'all. She started eating more. I was used to her eating like a can and a half of this particular cat food and then some treats. Well, not interested in the treats, but she was still eating almost a can of cat food every day, or started to anyway, and drinking water. I would grab her food and go, and then she would go, "What is that?" And she would start, just turn that down, um, eating the food, maybe a teaspoon at a time. But you know what? A manipulator of magnitude here. I was spending more time with her, and then I'd do the same with the water, and she'd do the water. There was one night I slept next to her on the floor on a cushion, and well, cushion, a little thin mattress thing. We have these cots for when my family comes to visit. There's a lot of them, y'all. So we have a lot of cots for the kids, and it wasn't comfortable on the floor though. I should have gotten the spring part of it too, but I knew she couldn't jump up there and be with me. And so what she did is she would come for like a minute or two and lay next to me. So one time she was like right next to my face. And then, for like a minute or two, and then she'd go back in her little cat bed. And then she was like between my legs. And then she would go back in her cat bed. At one point, she was laying on my feet. It was very cold. I woke up and I was achy all over. But, I noticed that after that night that her energy started to come back. And so, I was like, okay, well, and I was told today from my friend Venus, when people are preparing to die, they get better before they get worse. Well, this is how much better she'd be, y'all. We knew she was diagnosed, whatever, loosely, because we did get a CT scan, or not CT, we got an ultrasound. But they couldn't be absolutely 100% certain. They didn't know where it originated. They were assuming now it was all through the lymph nodes. So I'm expecting her to go quick. Well, like a day or two after she was diagnosed, my mom went out and bought her favorite cat food. It's got that little soft center in the can where she can just look at that and all that stuff. She just loves it. And I noticed today there were only 2 cans left. This is a box, okay, like 18 or something, 10, 15, 12. I don't remember now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. So there's 2 cans left. So 10 days have gone by. She's still with us. So I had to go out and buy some more canned cat food today. But anyway, I didn't mean to go so far into this. I've just had so many people reach out to me, and I want to thank all of you that have contributed to Pepita and to myself. And know that I'm willing to let her go. Of course, I'd rather she not. But she is 17 and a half, and that's probably 117 and a half for you and me. Oh no. But the reason why I was talking about the happy piece is because, are you truly happy? My next podcast guest is Marnie Richmond, and it drops tomorrow on the 14th of March. And what she started with was so poignant. It was just this, because I imagine a lot of us do this and we don't even realize we're doing it. Especially if you come from a family where there was a lot of abuse, right? Maybe not directly to you, but you watched your parents abusing each other or whatever it was, right? And so you have learned behaviors. You don't want to piss anybody off. So you're that space of, what can I do to make them happy? Or, what can I do to make sure they don't yell at me or whatever it is? And it's actually smart. We were talking about it when you're a little kid and you're trying to protect yourself. You learn all these behaviors, but they're kind of smart. It's like this thing where you have this ability, you become so psychic. You have this ability to know what's required to make the other person happy, to fulfill their desires, whatever they might be, right? I know I was like this. I'm going to go so far as to say I was a people pleaser. I wanted everybody to be happy. And it's kind of a joke. I'm called the happiness lady. Just happens to work with the name Rudrani Devi, the happiness lady. And, I'm not happy 100% of the time. And growing up, y'all, although, I was carefree and all the things, I wonder how authentically happy I really was. That's kind of what made this little book come together, because I realized that I was the programmed happy. I was doing the happy I thought was appropriate and that everybody could receive from me, right? What I was taught. And what if, not including myself in the equation, and what if putting yourself first, or making you the valuable product, or I know that sounds like gobbledygook. What if you included you, did for you first? And what if you being willing to actually choose you first was going to create greater for everyone involved, right? Because this is my belief. You teach people how to treat you. You truly do. And if you're always willing to be the doormat, because you're like, well, I'm going to pick and choose my battles, and 99% of the time, you're letting the other person or people or situation run your world instead of, hey, does this actually work for me? Well, you're showing people how to treat you. You're showing that you're a pushover, or maybe they don't even notice that part of it. They just come to expect it from you. And then you're teaching your children, it's like the parents that are fighting. Like, my parents fought quite a bit. I'll be honest. It was very uncomfortable. Wasn't crazy about it. Didn't like being in the room. Avoided it as much as possible. But basically, my mom would sit there and take it, and she'd sit there and take it, and she'd sit there and take it, and then she'd blow up. And then they'd have a big old fight. And I noticed that I did the same thing when I got married. I was like, I'm going to pick my battles. Okay, he wants to buy this really expensive electron something telescope thing, and it's thousands of dollars. And so we went on a trip once with it, and it was a lot of work for him to carry it. We were at the beach, so we knew we could see more stars, all the stuff. And so then he decided he wanted to buy a portable one. And I'm like, okay, well, how much is that going to cost? Well, sure, if it makes you happy, go ahead and do it. I thought, he loves astronomy, and what's, $8,000, and then for the portable one, I think it's like $5,000 or something. And we're talking years ago, right? But when I wanted to buy the more expensive entree on the menu, well, he had words with me. Like, "Do you always have to buy the most expensive thing?" And I'm like, no, but I don't want a cheeseburger. I want the steak. I'd like to have a glass of wine with that, if you don't mind." And I found myself constantly, going, "Okay, he's right. I'm wrong." And, I learned that from my parents. But, we get older. We've had more life experiences. And what if it was a matter of, "Hey, does this work for me? Does it work for me? This person's talking to me this way? Are they seeing me? Are they honoring me? Are, are they grateful for me? Do they even wanna be with me? Why am I with this person?" And so, eventually that marriage did not last, y'all. It didn't last. And Marty talks about her marriage too, where she says when it struck her, because I said, "What was that defining moment? What was it, girl?" And she was like, "Well, I saw a picture of myself, and she wasn't there. She was vacant." It was like, wow, what have I done to create this? And why am I creating it? She basically wasn't in the equation of her marriage at all. And it made me think, I did the same thing in my marriage, have never remarried. I've had some relationships here and there. But like I said, you get older, and I was at that space of, I don't need to be married. I don't need to be in a relationship. That's didn't create my happy before. If anything, it created my unhappiness. And in fact, I was so much happier when I was willing to let all those fantasies and insanities go, that you have to have someone else to complete you. How insane is that? That you need another person to complete your life. Now, if you can create more in relationship, let's call it creationship. Well, then, yeah, the contribution of each other, supporting each other, honoring each other, that's going to create more. And when you're willing to actually be that space of relationship, what does that show others? Well, it shows them that they can choose that themselves. That they can choose that themselves. And it was very interesting because, here, the happiness lady and my team and we were talking about all sorts of things we wanted to create. And then they were like, "Well, what is it that you really want to create? What is it that makes you happy?" I like to say, "What is the tail that wags the dog for you?" That gets you so excited to be alive. And, you teach what you most want to learn, I think, right? And I thought about it, and was really just because I had a couple of down months. I mean, the beginning of 2024 was not kind to me. Well, actually, going into it, I had broken my wrist, and I had sprained my hand, and I broke a toe, and got a couple of illnesses, a sinus infection that was just horrific, and then a stomach virus. And so my body was like, "Girl, slow the fuck down. You need to just chill." And during that time that I took for me, sleeping in because I had to, not working out, getting a little soft, eating whatever I want. Not that I don't ever eat what I want. I always eat what I want, but I mean, maybe stuff that I normally don't eat so much of. Like, instead of a handful of potato chips, a whole bag. What can I say? It got me clear about what it is what makes me happy, or what gets my happy. And for me, it was being the example of happy, which I'm already doing. But what really turns me on is when I see others choosing their happy, choosing to put themselves first, choosing to be the valuable product, choosing to be the greatness they truly be. Because how many times are you the greatest in the room, but never as great as you? Because you cut your arms and legs off to make everybody else comfortable or make everybody else happy. Now, I I'm not saying, I need to put myself first, y'all, you know, F you and all the things. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is what if you actually being willing to include you and, dare I say, put yourself first was the example for others to know they could choose the same. So that's all I got. So will you choose your happy? Hey, you know what? Start little. Pick something little that you can do for yourself every day, even if it's just a walk down the street and back. Give yourself some you time and see what that creates. So cool. That was the happy hump day of today. Thank you again for contributing to my baby Pepita, my 17-and-a-half-year-old baby. Thank you for all your contributions. Thank you for watching now and in the future. And if you sense that this conversation could be helpful to others, please share. And if you'd like to be alerted when I go live, hit the subscribe button. That's all it takes. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. And until next time, ciao, ciao for now.